Hello again, and welcome to this week of my series of showing you how I'm painting an orange, and my series of this kind of style of painting on learning how to paint with texture and a little bit of an impressionist feel. Today I'm going to show you how I'm going to go back into the orange. I've walked by, like I told you last week, and kind of took a break from painting and looked back at it and saw that I needed to add some changes. And so today I'm going to show you how to do that and kind of how it is kind of difficult to paint back into a dry painting. This week I have a little bit more prepped space, so my colors are already mixed. And I'm going to show you how it is kind of difficult going back into a dry painting, and sometimes you kind of need to start another layer if you want to work with the paint. What happened was when I added the blue, I added it rather very kind of a dark hue, and it dried darker than I realized I wanted it. So I'm going to go back into the blue surface and parts and do a lighter blue to make it a little bit more plateful, and so you can see those complementary colors. And also I'm going to add a little bit more of a divot here for where the stem is, because I just did one crease, and after eating a few oranges this week and giving my son a few oranges, I realized that I needed to add a little bit more divots where the stem is. So I'm going to start by adding just a little bit of orange to kind of give myself a wet surface to work with. And it's a lighter orange, and I already can tell that I'm going to need to mix some more than I already mixed. So I'm going to just kind of start again, and this is a little bit of a brighter orange than I have on there, which I think I would rather do this time, this layer and this go around, than the deeper oranges that I had going in it. So let's see. And hopefully you're enjoying yourself as you are creating some of your own artwork and having fun playing around with paint. There we go. So just kind of wanted to add a little bit around where I'm going to go in with the blue. Now I was thinking about what kind of advice I can give y'all this week. And I was pulling out some of my paintbrushes and realized that some of the bristles were a little stiff, and I realized I only clean them with water. When you are cleaning your brushes, it's important that you take care of them, because you want them to last a long time, especially if some brushes that you own were kind of expensive. I have learned that first you just need to get the paint out with just water, running it under the sink, and then putting a little bit of soap, like dish soap, in the palm of your hand. And then let me put my palette knife down and kind of working it into some suds, so a nice lather, and then rinsing it again under the water to completely get all that paint out that you can, and you're bringing the softness back to the brush so it's a little softer. I have this brush that's a little stiff because I only cleaned it with water, and the stiffness from the paint that's still kind of in the bristles is still there. So I need to go back and clean this again. So just remember that, and then just let them dry, and they should be perfectly fine. And you'll have a nice soft brush to work with. Okay, now that I've brought in some of that orange a little bit again, I'm going to go and you put in a brighter blue. So I'm going to just clean off my palette knife with my paper towel and go back in with a lighter blue. Now hopefully you can see that pretty well on the camera, how much lighter that is. It's still going to bring in my contrast, And once I'm done, I will do the trick that I showed you how to do on this week's blog. Take a picture of your painting with your phone camera, since everybody's got a camera on their phone these days, or just with your camera, your point and shoot or any kind of camera you have, and then take a picture again on black and white mode, and you'll see if there is enough contrast for your liking. You don't have to do that trick. If you don't want a lot of contrast in your paintings, then don't. This is your painting. You have fun with it. Now there is some knowledge that you do need to know about painting, and that's what makes painting fun, is that when you study it and you research other artists and you learn those basic rules, like I was saying a few videos ago about the rule of threes that a lot of photographers use and a lot of people who draw and painters use, is breaking your canvas or surface into 3 parts and moving your main focal point within those 3 parts. And that adds visual interest, so nothing smack dab in the middle. Because I know that knowledge, because I know about the rule of threes, I am purposely choosing to break them. And that's why I put the orange smack dab in the middle. I want to make a statement. I want to say, here is a fruit. And I want people to know that and see that. And so that is the great thing about knowing the basic rules to art. And then having the knowledge of that, and then breaking those rules to make a point, show your purpose, show what the message you're trying to get out. And sometimes that brings out the most beautiful and most visually interesting paintings or works of art out there. So here we go. I'm going to go back in here. And you can probably see in the painting that I am really kind of changing it up with this brighter blue color. That's really adding a much different feel to the painting. And I plan on working in some more shades of the blue, so we can get even more visual interest instead of just one shade of blue. You can see I am adding those extra divots I talked about for where the stem is, to kind of show that it goes in. It's kind of like a belly button for a fruit. I don't think that is scientifically accurate at all. I don't know much science, and that's what my husband is good for, correcting me on those silly comments I make when I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. Luckily, being an art major in college, I only had to take 1 math class, which I barely made it through because I just cannot stand math. And then I only had to take 2 sciences, and I chose geology, the study of rocks, and astronomy, the study of stars. And they couldn't have been more boring. I should have done something a little bit more interesting like chemistry and mixing chemicals, because I mix paint. Similar, right? Probably not. You're probably sitting there in your house laughing at that comment that I just made then. Okay. So now I'm going to go in and add a darker blue to kind of show some value in the blue that I added, to show a little bit more visual interest and make my painting even more interesting. And you can see I actually apply the paint to the bottom of my palette knife instead of the top, because with the top these don't bend very well because they are stiff metal. So doing that, it's harder to apply. I mean, you can do that, it adds a different kind of texture, but I feel like it's a little more difficult to work with. So I actually apply the paint to the bottom and then work with it flatly on the painting. like to do it that way, which I find to be easier, it's probably the best way to go. Some more of that dark blue. And see, when this dark blue dries, it's going to dry lighter because visually it's next to a lighter color. Once I'm done with this painting, I plan on showing you all a few tricks in color theory that I think you might find very interesting. And that'll be a nice break between paintings to kind of show you some different techniques and lessons and just some extra knowledge you can enjoy. Okay, now I thought for a second, if you saw me hesitate just now, or I thought I'm going to clean off my palette knife and work the orange into the blue. But I think I'm going to work the opposite and work some of the blue into the orange. And you can see I'm not laying it on thickly, I'm kind of adding some spots to show that, to do some blending. And I don't mean that I'm going to blend this all together with one big smear with my palette knife. I'm blending for the eye. So the eye can kind of see the blue going into the orange. Now you see I'm adding quite a bit of blue, and I'm thinking right now how I'm a little nervous that people are going to wonder what kind of fruit this is, because it's a lot of blue for an orange. But again, remember I'm making a statement, and I probably will go back into the blue a little bit more and add some more orange, so it's not too blue. I'm looking at that stem that I painted in, and I'm thinking I might make it a little bit darker so you can kind of see it, because it's kind of losing itself within the blue. I'm adding all of that dark blue in there again. Now that I'm up working with the stem, I think I'm going to go back into it with some green. An interesting trick I learned is sometimes the greens that you buy are just, this is the best word to describe it, are acidy. They look like acid, and they're that bright green, that neon-y green, and that just doesn't show up in nature. So to bring that green back down to a more believable, realistic, natural color, add orange. I know red, as we've learned, is green's complementary color. Well, once you mix complementary colors together, it usually comes out as brown, this muddy, gross color. We don't want that. So you want something that has a little bit more yellow in it to add into the green, which red and yellow, orange. So we'll take a little bit of the orange and mix it with the green, and it'll bring out a little bit more of a natural color that you see more often in nature. Add that green in. Bring it back. And go. I'm going to add a little bit brown to kind of add a little bit more depth to the green. Kind of going away from my complementary color palette just so I can bring out that stem, because I do want it to kind of look like a stem. So I'll move that. Okay, and then now that I wipe off the brown, see the paint's starting to dry on my palette knife, so I'm going to rinse it in some water and loosen that paint up off of my palette knife so I can wipe it off. With palette knives, all you need is water. That's all you need to do, but make sure you dry them, because they can rust. It is metal. White, got a little interest there, and there you go. Okay, now let's go back into the orange. and into the blue. And we're going to bring some of that orange down into the blue. We brought some of the blue back up into the orange, so we're going to bring the orange into the blue and kind of play with that and let it kind of battle each other. And add some detail here. Okay, I obviously need to make more orange for my palette. So bring the red into the yellow. Remember, the darker pigment into the lighter. Now bring it in. Let's kind of work that into that. Okay, orange back in there. And you can see that what I was aiming to show you is how difficult it is to work with already dried paint that has quite a bit of a texture. Usually like to lay down another wet layer so you have something to work with. And that's what I did when we first started painting. We need to probably do that some more up here so I can add some highlights to the stem. See, I kind of brought some of the orange back down to blue. But I want this to be seen as an orange, even if I want to have some fun with it. So I want to add some highlights up here, so I want to add some orange. And you can see my orange is starting to get a little muddy from the blue that I've been dipping into it. So you need to clean off that palette knife, constantly be cleaning to keep your paint from getting too muddy by mixing colors. That's always something that drives me nuts when I work with kids, is they love to use that one brush without rinsing it and mixing it into other paintings or other paints. And you're probably saying, well, you've got a kid, just wait. And I know, and I'm going to have to learn to get over that. It's my little bit of OCD artist in me that likes to keep my paints clean. And maybe I'll teach my son, I definitely will teach my son not to do that, and I might have the only kid that doesn't do that, but you're probably laughing and thinking, yeah right, that's never going to happen. Okay, so again, I'm almost out of my mixed orange that I just mixed a second ago. Tapping the paint off the top. It kind of got caked up on the top of my palette knife, so I can work with it with the back of my palette knife. So let's mix some of the orange again. So we can kind of go into the blue at the top like we did at the bottom. So it's not too blue, like I was saying before. I always think palette knives mix better than a brush does sometimes. It's because I feel like it's faster, you can kind of swirl it and get it in there better. But maybe that's just me and it's a preference I have. Sometimes I like, if I have certain color and a certain amount of paint, I like to just mix with a paintbrush. It's sometimes easier that way too. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. Different preferences for different artists, different people, and what they've learned how to do, and they like to stick to how they've learned it. So don't think everything I say has to be done the way I say it. Do things the way you feel is best for you when it comes to painting. Or drawing, or any of that stuff. See, I'm basically just doing another layer of wet paint to work with. And I'm going to do basically everything I said I did in the last painting video. And I will spare you that watch again. So I will skip to my finished painting for this video in just a moment. Okay, now that we are done for today with the orange, I like what it looks like now. What I did is I brought the orange a little bit more into the blue than I originally had to make the blue seem more like it's coming through the orange, and it's kind of a background look to it. And then I brought some highlights up to around where the stem is, and just put another coat or another layer of wet paint back onto the painting, and kind of just reworked it and retexturized it for me personally, how I like it. And now looking at it, I like how it looks better than it did last time. Hopefully it's coming through on the video how I would like it to. It's usually a little bright in the video because I'm in the brightest room of our house. That's what my goal is for these videos, is so that you can see me and see the artwork well. And when you are working, use natural light. It's the best light you can use, even when putting on makeup. It brings out your features in the sunlight and how they are meant to be seen, and natural light is the best to work with when it comes to painting especially. So that's why I use this room. Half the room is covered with windows, so it's the brightest room in our house, and it's also the warmest during the summer. So what I did is I went and grabbed my phone, and I'm going to take a picture. And I'm going to post these onto my blog so you can see the before and after using the black and white filter to see the contrast that I'm getting. So I'm going to take a picture, and then I'm going to change my setting onto my phone to black and white. Let's see, each phone's different, so I'm going to go back and take a picture, and I'm liking what I see through my gray filter, so it is looking good. So I will take that. And now I know how it looks with contrast, and I really like how it's looking and the amount of contrast I'm getting, and it's the intention that I'm wanting to get. And I will have those posted onto my blog so you can see what that looks like, and so you can use that experiment with your paintings. Next week we are finally going to work on the slice. Now the slice is going to be quite interesting because it's going to be more detail and more texture than the orange is. The orange is just a simple surface. Even though I added a lot of visual interest with the colors and the texture, the slice is going to have a little bit more detail. And you're going to get to see how I handle that detail with a palette knife, which is harder to work with tiny spaces. And so that's when I'm going to draw my references to Impressionism, and they didn't do as much detail as they used, made their paintings a little bit more blurry because they wanted to capture a moment and you knowing that time is still moving and that it's not a complete still frozen painting. It's movement and life happening. And so I'm going to use that kind of idea of technique in my painting. You can already see that with the orange. I want to do that with the slice, and hopefully it'll come out well in just one video. And then we can finally get to the really fun part, and that's the background, which you'll get to see me mix and create that texture that I've been talking about, and with the supplies that I bought on Utrecht, which is a great website, cheap supplies, what we used to buy our supplies in college, and you can just be a big vendor to buy them, or you can be an individual and buy the supplies, and they're a lot faster than I thought. They came to my door a week earlier than I thought they would. They emailed me and told me it would arrive, so that's always exciting and nice. A gift upon a gift. So hopefully today you learned a little bit something. I might not have had as much advice this video because I was going back into something that we worked on last week. And hopefully next week you can learn a lot when I put in the detail for the slice. And please remember to subscribe so you get updates when new videos are posted, which you will know is every Tuesday. And same with my blog. I always post the link to this video in my blog, and you can find the video on YouTube if you just type in painting an orange part, whichever part we are. This week I think I'm going to do part 2.5, since this is we're doing the same thing we did last week, but just tweaking a little bit. And please read my blog. I'm going into sometimes more detail and give more advice on there on different things. I'm hoping you have a great weekend, and here in Kansas it's beautiful out, so we're enjoying the weather, and I hope you're having great weather where you are too. Take care and have a great day.